On today's episode of the DeRaud-Messinger Show, we're previewing and predicting number 12 Oklahoma versus number 3 Texas. Longhorns fans and OU fans, don't forget to like this video, and if you're a Texas fan, subscribe. If you're Oklahoma, nothing against you, go ahead and subscribe too. Just might not be your type of content. But of course, Dylan, we're trying to provide as impartial of a prediction and objective as a prediction as we can, and starting with something that neither side can argue, Dylan. That's the basic game info. Please don't argue with that, else you're going to end up in the wrong place. The game is Saturday, October 7th at 11 a.m. Central Time. The golden time that should never be changed, Dylan. Something about 11 a.m. kicks at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, Texas. The game is televised on ABC, and for Texas, that seems like the third game in a row on ABC, which I don't think I'm right on, but it seems like every week now. College game day is going to be there, and Texas is favored by 6.5 points, and that line is moving. We checked it earlier; it was 5 points. Now it's jumped to 6.5. But Dylan, scouting report. How are you feeling about that Oklahoma Sooners defense?
Okay, well, if you're a Sooners fan and you're watching this team this season, I feel like you feel a lot more confident in this defense than you did last season. They're definitely more improved. I would not expect them to I would expect them to have more stops than they did last year, is what I'm trying to say. Obviously, Brent Venables has now had a whole off season to kind of revamp, get his team more experience. They were young last year, right? Getting acclimated to the new scheme, right? So they're definitely going into this game a lot more prepared than they were last year, going into his second year. They've got defensive coordinator Ted Roof as well. He's the defense coordinator and linebackers coach, and we'll get into the linebackers in a bit. He's been coaching for 35 years, Devon, and he was also, a little fun fact, he was the defensive coordinator of Auburn when they won the title over Oregon in 2010, and he was a defensive analyst at
Still
Clemson,
too
and that's kind
soon.
of why he's
Doesn't work in ducks.
yeah.
Are
So,
beautiful. Oh, okay.
all
That
right,
that is a
hey,
fun fact. Dang, what a comeback. Okay.
yeah, it comes all the way back. Yeah, so and he worked with Venables at Clemson, so they work well together. They're both built kind of the same vision of how they want to run this defense. And I think going into this game, Devin, the game plan is going to be to make viewers uncomfortable, right? They're seventh in the country in turnovers with 2.4 per game. So they have been an interception machine. And that is something that will really tip the scales of this game, where I do think, honestly, Texas is more talented of a team, but Oklahoma has been able to play really well defensively, at least when it comes to, again, generating those turnovers and evening the playing field, or even tipping it in their favor, right? They're also fifth in the country with 10.8 points allowed per game. So they're doing well. Now, they haven't faced the competition like Texas. So that is probably going to go up as the season goes on, but they've been playing really well through the games that they obviously should be winning this season. They're 20th in the country in passing percentage allowed at 54.5, 53rd in the country with 212.8 pass yards allowed per game, and then 29th against the run this year with only 105 rush yards allowed per game. So they've been statistically a little bit slightly above average, right? Maybe around average. So again, that's an improvement off of last year. And they're led by, with this linebacking group, Devin, remember his name, but Danny Stutzman. He's number one in the Big 12 with 49 tackles on the season. And he had a 17 tackle game against SMU. So prepare for him to be flying all around the field. He's
And
also
he's not
number
a
two in tackles
linebacker.
for loss.
He's not a linebacker, or
Say it
he's a
again?
linebacker. He's not a safety. Our safety theory. So
No, exactly.
Oklahoma's
Yeah, yeah.
undefeated because of it.
You gotta be careful. You're freaking me out. I was like, I thought I read the thing right.
I'm trying to
So I'm
scare you
lining
over
up in
there.
the right
Yeah,
way. All
make sure
right,
you're
great. Now
paying
I got myself
attention.
questioning everything. Yeah, but they like to also utilize him just coming off the edge in a certain aspect, or at least getting at the rusher. He's number two in the Big 12 with tackles for loss with 9. So he's really good at just getting into the backfield too, disrupting plays. He's got 2 sacks on the season and an interception. So he's been all over. Then they've got sophomore linebacker Jaron Connect. He's got 22 tackles. He's got 1 sack, 1 forced fumble as well. He's coming off of an injury. He played last week against Iowa State. He looks healthy. So that linebacker group is something to watch out for, especially with this running game for Texas getting better with Jonathan Brooks. It's going to be key for Oklahoma to really put those guys on him as, like, a running back spy, right? Making sure everything kind of stays in front of them. And then you've got senior defensive back Key Lawrence, who's got 18 tackles and then 2 interceptions. And then your boy, Devon, junior strong safety, Billy Bowman Jr., he's got 12 tackles on the season and 2 interceptions. I'm really looking forward to maybe, and hopefully we'll talk about kind of Jatavian Sanders and what he's looking like going into this game, healthy-wise, like just his health, right? But I would love, a
I
Den
hope
Guy
I
or a Den
get
Guy
a
or after
I
or
hope I get
Den
a
Ryan, sorry.
Ryan matchup there with
Yeah.
Jatavian and Billy. I mean, let's just do over the game if we don't get one. I say whoever wins,
Yeah.
you got to do it again if you don't get that matchup. But of course, teammates in high school. I know I talk about it every time we talk about Oklahoma, but of course Bowman was committed to Texas for a brief little while and then flipped to Oklahoma. So that's an interesting storyline as well, especially with being teammates or ex-teammates with the Jatavian, who of course ended up sticking to Texas. So interesting dynamic there. Dylan, was there more?
Yeah, well, another big thing, and he's been out for a while now, but Venables likes to use a cheetah position, and that's kind of like a hybrid from, like, let's say, a cornerback and a linebacker, and the way they just try to use him kind of all over the field. And that was cornerback Justin Harrington. He's officially out for the season with an ACL injury. He's been out for a while since I believe the SMU game, but now he's officially done for the season. So I don't know necessarily who they're going to be using in that spot going in now, but Reggie Pearson, their redshirt senior free safety, he's injured. He's kind of next in line. He was all over the field last week against Iowa State too. So now that he's kind of back, we'll kind of see how they use him here. And then up front, you've got defensive lineman Ethan Downs, kind of leading that front. And as a four-man front, they've got five total sacks this season. So it's a defensive front, something to watch out for too. But really keying on those linebackers for Oklahoma in this one.
Yeah, doing defense I think was the more fun group to get. Somehow you keep on getting the more fun group. But, with all that being said, and I've already seen my fair share of jokes against the Oklahoma offense, at the expense of the offense. But, diving on the research, Dylan, I don't know if it's as bad as some people would like it to believe. Of course, if you're a Texas fan, I've heard a lot about the Oklahoma running game, which, of course, I'll get to in a second, and has not been, the greatest looking thing on this planet. But also, some stats might deceive you. But as Dylan said, of course, they haven't played a team such as Texas this year. But with not playing a team like Texas yet, they still have dominated competition, which, like Dylan said, is what you're, of course, wanting to do at this point. Now, I got to start by calling out something. Dylan's boy at quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, the red shirt, I believe senior already. Man, he's been playing forever. The transfer from UCF, of course, this is year 2 with Venables and the Oklahoma Sooners. He's already passed for over 1,500 yards, Dylan, close to 1,600, with 15 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So Quinn does have him beat there, but of course Gabriel has passed for more touchdowns and has a higher passer rating. And he's been efficient, Dylan. This is the scary part. I, of course, preach about Ewers needing about a 63%, I believe, or better completion percentage in order to keep Texas in games and winning those games, of course. Gabriel, so far this season, yet again, competition, yes, we've preached on it. Hasn't been there yet, but that's no fault of the team. They got to do what they're playing against. He's passed for 75.2%. Now, I'm no math major, Dylan, but that's a 3 out of 4 tries is good in the passing
game. Good math. Yeah, that's good math.
So Gabriel will definitely be, in part because of the Kansas injury to Jalen Daniels. Gabriel will now be the undoubted best quarterback that the Longhorns have faced. And if you're a Longhorn fan, Dylan and I have talked about this, you're probably, of course you don't ever wish for injuries, but the injury to Daniels was very unfortunate because it was going to be a test for the Texas defense. And it turned out, of course, Jason Bean totally different in terms of his abilities. They're similar in able to move around the pocket and just run for yards like Jason Bean did. But Daniels a little bit closer to Gabriel in terms of passing ability. I think Gabriel is probably more of the, quote unquote pure passer. But what does that mean, Dylan? Anyway, where am I going? I'm talking Kansas. Let's get back on track. Running back has been a mixed bag for these Oklahoma Sooners. I know you guys have been waiting for it. But the OU fans, you guys have had to not say suffer, but you've had to wait and see who's going to win that RB1 job, because it seems like we're still waiting to see who's going to win that RB1 job. You got redshirt senior Marcus Major, who was the primary back against Texas last year. You got junior, the name I dare not mispronounce, Tawi Walker. Look at that. I took some notes. And then you got sophomore Javante Barnes, all competing for those RB1 snaps. None of those guys have won the job. It's not like they've had the worst production too, Dylan. I did note that Oklahoma has, I had to just start off with this, the 9th best total offense in terms of yards, 6th best passing offense in terms of yards, which is just hyping up what I've been saying about Gabriel. But 63rd tied for in rushing yards. Now, of course, as Dylan was so great to really bring to light, I think last video, 60 is about average, I believe is what you were saying. So they're about average in running, but Texas is actually below Oklahoma in that overall stat at 65th. Yet again, Oklahoma 63rd. But then again, of course, competition comes into play. Texas has looked really good. The narrative has been Jonathan Brooks has really stormed onto the scene, or run onto the scene, pun intended there. But Oklahoma, yet again, those trio of guys, we're going to have to wait and see. Dylan's going to be exciting. Last year, I put down a note, the leading rusher for Oklahoma in the Red River game. I'm not going to quiz you on it because, Dylan, I don't know if you've really thought about it. I don't want to put you on the spot here. But it was Jaleel Farouk, the wide receiver, who ran for 60 yards on 5 carries, which is just, as Dylan said, that's evident of how the game went last year. I wouldn't say it's a bold prediction, Dylan, but if the running game is not working as it was last year, of course, though, they were very one-dimensional with Davis Bevel at quarterback, and they had to, really just, of course, one-dimensional, rely on that running game. And then my guess is here, Dylan, if they can't get any production out of the trio they have, they might try to also, like they did last year, break out some wildcat or anything to really get some different looks for that Texas defense. But of course, Texas is also ready for that, having, as I said, seen that last year. So a little bit less of a mystery in terms of the Oklahoma running game now for the Longhorns. And then at wide receiver, I talked about quarterbacks, talked about running backs. Dylan, your boy, Andrell Anthony, 387 receiving yards and a touchdown. Dylan was so happy.
He's a talented player.
Talented player, okay. Dylan's a Michigan guy, so he's seen plenty of tape from all those Michiganders. So you got Anthony, then you got junior, as I said, Jaleel Farouk, 285 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. They're the leaders. But the surprising part, Dylan, is that the bulk of the receiving touchdowns have come from 2 guys who aren't their top 2 receivers. These 2 guys have combined for 9 touchdowns. That would be redshirt freshman Nick Anderson. Dylan, Katy shout out. The Katy Tigers covered that man in high school. In 6th year, he's never graduating. He's up there with Perry Ellis in terms of time played. Drake Stoops. The 2 wide receivers for Oklahoma have been scoring touchdowns. Nick Anderson, as of late, Stoops opened the year firing. And then at tight end, guys, I must admit, of course, from the great state of Texas, but if you ever want to admire a position from afar, it's the Oklahoma Sooners tight ends. You just, a thing of beauty, Dylan. They always have some 6'5", 6'6" guy out there ready to just catch red zone touchdown passes. And the funny thing about this Oklahoma Sooners team is, of course, that 6'6" Austin Stogner is back in the crimson jerseys, Dylan, the nice shade of red for Oklahoma. Hasn't actually done too much, though. But I'll preface that with another guy, the Triple B, Dylan. Big body Blake Smith. We've covered him quite a bit back in high school, at least his high school days. We were in college at that point, as a tight end for South Lake Carroll. And fun fact, he was the top receiving target at the tight end position of Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers in high school at South Lake Carroll. So the 2 of those guys are, as I said, Triple B, big body blockers, big body guys that are still capable of catching touchdown passes. This is my thing to note here, is both have combined only for 6 catches, 67 yards, and 1 touchdown this season. This is the game, Dylan, where that's the wrinkle that hasn't been shown too much. If you're going to throw in a tight end wrinkle in the red zone or, get them some love, this is the game to do it. And lastly, I want to end on everyone's favorite group, the offensive line. Yes, the big uglies. OU is tied for 13th in sacks allowed, which is, of course, quite impressive, allowing only 4. Texas has allowed 7 on their side of the ball, but has forced 13 sacks defensively. So, of course, there's a little bit of an imbalance with OU only allowing 4, Texas forcing 13. But overall, the offensive line of Oklahoma, I wouldn't say is anything crazy, Dylan. But yet again, against the competition they've played so far, has done quite well. And if they're going to want to win this game, they are going to want to keep that pocket clean for Mr. Gabriel. Now, Dylan, X Factors. This is an interesting game, interesting storylines. Who are you feeling here?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it a lot there with that running game, and that's what I really wanted to focus on in this one was really Oklahoma versus this front seven of Texas when it comes to how Oklahoma's going to run this ball, right? I mean, if for Texas fans, the best case scenario becomes they just cannot move the ball up front. They're only getting a yard per rush, right? At that point, they just become incredibly one-dimensional, and they're going to have to rely on the passing game. And I think that can work for a solid chunk of the game, especially with how suspect this Texas secondary has been, Devon, especially with just Dylan Gabriel having so many options when it comes to just receiving threats and his arm talent, right? But over time, you're going to be able to kind of pull your guys away from the box. The linebackers for Texas are just so talented, especially with just how Jalen Ford is able to cover the field, the talent around that. So it's going to be very hard for Oklahoma to win this game if they become one-dimensional like that. Like Dylan Gabriel is really going to feast off of having that balanced attack, making Texas respect the running game, which then allows him to be able to make things happen with his own legs, right? So that is a key matchup to kind of watch. Marcus Major at his best right now has just been a bruising running back. His longest run this year is 19 yards. His best game was 66 yards on 19 carries last week against Iowa State, right? So is that a sign of what's to come against Texas? Maybe. Or it's Venables trying to give Texas some tape that maybe is going to mean nothing. Like maybe Marcus Major really comes out here and doesn't get a ton of work. Maybe they go with Tawi Walker, right, Devin? So that's something to watch out for, especially with just kind of the change of pace. Walker, he's averaging 5.1 yards per carry, right? So he's been the most explosive back, and Marcus Majors only has like 3.9 yards per carry. And I don't know if this helps anybody's kind of frame of reference when it comes to the NFL and relating it to now. Think of like the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? So they've got Najee Harris, who's been the not very explosive player right now, more of the bruising back.
This sounds like some vendettas that are going on here. Is this fantasy football?
I might have Najee in my fantasy list. Besides the point, we don't need to talk about this. But then Walker, maybe more so of now I'm forgetting his name. You threw me off now, but yeah, so kind of like that backfield in a sense. Okay, this is so important. Jalen Warren, Jesus, God, throw me off, Devin. But yeah, so something that relates to kind of that sort of team as a frame of reference, right? But again, this is a very explosive Oklahoma team. They're number 3 in points in the country right now, averaging 47.4. They're behind USC and Oregon in terms of just points scored this season. So they're a team that can really put up points, obviously, but it's really going to be about this running game and how it can make their team more balanced against this, very good Texas defense.
Yeah, Dylan, I had to throw you off. I'm handing you that L in fantasy football, so I had to stick it to you here too. But all jokes aside, the X Factor, Dylan, in this one is not me because I forgot to click slide. So we're finally caught up. X Factors, yes.
Oh.
We're back. But all jokes aside, the X Factor for me, Dylan, is that Longhorn secondary. Of course, I bring it up seemingly every week that they allow maybe 1 to 2 plays of, of course, just deep caliber pass or a big run, or against Kansas, an unfortunate, run, then fumble, and then recovered fumble that ended up in a touchdown. I mean, Oh, you could not draw that up. I made that joke already, but
Yeah.
every week it's something. Against Oklahoma, like I said, Gabriel is probably the best quarterback that they have played so far this season, and I would not put that up for debate. I wrote down they've played three, not one, not two, not three. Texas has played three backup quarterbacks. They've kind of, yet again, you never wish for health concerns, Dylan, but if you are, a coach, of course you'd want to feast on some backup quarterbacks. They've done that. And then Jalen Milroe, he's got a lot of potential, but he still has to find, his accuracy on the deep pass. And Nick Saban, hey, turned back to him, so that's good for him. But Texas secondary covering Gabriel and the multitude of threats they have is going to be the biggest key. But I also had the Texas running game. The Oklahoma defense, at least against the run, has done quite well. So that's going to be something to watch. Of course, Quinn Ewers is going to have a lot of expectations in this game, especially after a pretty solid game last year, to just compete and, of course, put the team in the best position. And then, finally, Devon makes this X Factor debut for a group, the special teams unit, really both sides.
I like it.
I'm going to emphasize here Texas, though, because we have seen it, visibly be a weakness in some weeks, whether it be muffed punts or Dylan, just at times when there's a punt that is allowed to bounce for 15 yards. Field position is field position, regardless of how big or small it seems. And it seems like the Red River game is typically, of course, not only decided, but largely decided by that, field position battle. So that's going to be something to watch, Dylan. I know you guys are on edge about that one. But now, look, he got the slide right. Danger level. Dylan, how are you feeling here?
Oh, well, you can expect this to be high. This is the big game, obviously, like it is every year, as you've hinted at multiple times, Devin, especially with your experience watching this game so much. Everything goes out the window, especially in a rivalry game of this magnitude, right? You really don't know who might step up, right? You've got the usual names, but maybe out of nowhere, some freshmen make some great plays, right? So a lot of things can happen in this game that you just don't expect, right? And with that, I've got this danger level sitting at about a 9 right now. Oklahoma, like we've talked about, they present a different challenge that Texas has not faced before, and that's a healthy starting QB that honestly, after this game, depending on how it goes, could really put himself in the Heisman contention, right? Kind of waiting on that signature game that just hasn't happened yet because they've played teams like Tulsa
Yeah.
and SMU. So you haven't seen that kind of matchup that maybe Ewers had against like Alabama. So this could be the coming out game for Gabriel. He has the talent. That is something that I'm incredibly worried about when it comes to this Texas team. If there is a scenario in which Texas loses this or it's very close, it's because Gabriel is torching the secondary of Texas and kind of having his way back there. And it doesn't matter how good your front seven is, if he's on point and receivers are getting open, especially with the talent that Oklahoma has, that's worrisome here. And that's right now why I've got it sitting at a 9. And then the reason I don't have it as a 10, Devin, is I think the ways in which Texas can win this game or win any game, really, there's multiple ways they can beat you, especially with Jonathan Brooks really coming along with his offensive line playing very well for Texas. Texas can beat you in the running game. If their running game's not working, Ewers can beat you with his arms, especially with just an elite receiving core that he has, right? Especially if JT Sanders is back and healthy. There's so many guys in the field that Texas can just deploy. It's hard to cover all of them, right? And then on the other side of that too, again, just the defensive front. If Texas mucks this up, if the game kind of becomes a field position battle, I like Texas in that way too, just with their trenches. So that's why I've got sitting at a 9 right now.
Interesting call on the Gabriel Heisman theory. Dylan, if Oklahoma wins this, I agree. I mean, right now he has better stats. Like we said, the competition hasn't been as great, but, if Oklahoma pulls off a win versus Texas, then of course he's going to catapult up the rankings a bit. And, guys like Quinn Ewers and, Caleb Williams too soon might drop a little bit in those rankings. Was not intending on that. My danger level is also pretty high. I'm not going quite as high as Dylan, but still pretty good magnitude. I'm going with a 7. I mean, it is deserving of being a high danger level, Dylan. It is Oklahoma. Of course, like you said, the Red River Rivalry. By the way, the correct, calling of the name is the Red River Rivalry. I know we got all these shootouts and showdowns and rivalry. It's the triple R, alliteration. Anyway, back to danger level.
So good.
This team, of course, Oklahoma, like I said, yes, running back has been a big question mark. So they have some weaknesses, but they are a hungry team, Dylan, after last year's 49-0 loss. And I'm going to tell you, I'm sure this Oklahoma team does not like this Texas team, especially after that. I am sure Venables had them doing some severe gassers after that game. And I don't know.
Well, and here's the thing, Devin, too, with like the beat writers, people that really cover the game, they don't even mention it. Like they'll be like, we don't need to remind everybody about what happened last year, right? They're not even bringing up the score. And I don't know, at least for me, if I'm in the Oklahoma locker room, if Venables happens to play every highlight from that game of last year, I'd be fired up. So mentally, this Oklahoma team is definitely ready to go. I know it's a rivalry game, so everyone's always ready to go, but there's got to be some extra mojo to this game for them.
No, I agree. That's literally what I would play right before running out. Just find the condensed version on YouTube and get a good 40-minute.
Not even condensed. Make them sit there for 4 hours.
Okay, well maybe they have to watch that the night before though. But yeah, I would not be happy. And a lot of these guys, Dylan, I talk about it in a lot of videos. A lot of these guys were recruited by Texas. They've got a little bit added incentive here, either recruited by Texas or a lot of them were passed up by the Longhorns. So there's, some guys that are playing familiar faces and just want to win that battle, like we talked about the battle of Denton Ryan going on. But then there's some guys that have been passed over and, of course, want to stick it to Texas. So I got a 7. It's definitely going to be, hopefully, a good game. But yet again, Dylan, you never know with these Red River games. I guess we'll see. Now, Dylan, the final portion. Devon's clicking is on point. The predictions.
Let's go.
What are you feeling here?
Oh, this is so tough. I just like this Oklahoma team. Again, they're improved off of last year. This offense is very good. Anytime that you hang up, I believe they beat Iowa State like 50-20. And Iowa State might not be as good as they once were, especially when they had like Brock Purdy and Breece Hall. But this is still a team that plays very well defensively. And if you have your offense putting up that amount of points, that amount of yards before this game, like that's the great thing too. I feel like both of these teams are really clicking on all cylinders and playing some of the best football they could possibly be playing. Granted, there's some areas like, let's say, Texas secondary could be playing better, or the running game for Oklahoma could be better. Like there's still those facets of their game that could be more improved, but everything else is definitely working and can help kind of cover up those other factors, right, of their game plan and how they've been executing. So it's going to be this is going to be a very good game. I think I don't want to say it's a toss up. I think there are more ways that Texas can win this game than Oklahoma can. It's really going to come down to what I feel like, if we're going to break it down from the start, right? Oklahoma is going to come out firing, right? They're going to want to hit Texas in the mouth, see what they're made out of. Although Texas this season has shown their ability to bounce back, but that's going to be Oklahoma's best chance. Hit them early, hit them with the pass plays, really set up a deep throw, right? Get to Texas early, maybe get up 10-0 or at least early 7-0 lead and make Texas feel it. Really put that pressure on Ewers and then come out with a lot of blitz packages at them to really make Ewers uncomfortable, right? Try to get him, let's say, not necessarily out of the pocket, but a little scared in there, getting his footwork a little bit off, making some bad throws, really opening it up to your secondary to capitalize how they have been this season, getting those interceptions, right? So then it's going to be on Texas to bring that back. And I think with Texas, a lot of like that Devon just needs to focus on his own game and click the slides and not focus on me. That's what Texas needs to do. They need to have those blinders on. Oklahoma is going to be trying to get in their head. They're going to be playing with some extra fire just given last year. And that could come back to bite them later on if they come out early in this game. Not necessarily wear them out, but they allow themselves to get worn out by Texas, especially in those trenches. That's where Texas is one of the best in the country, is that offensive line and that defensive line, with also the linebackers that they have. If they can play the way they want to, really wear them down with the running game, open up the play action with Ewers, get Ewers comfortable with some quick throws that they like to do, especially just with screen plays, getting AD Mitchell kind of on slant routes, just getting the ball in their playmakers' hands with quick throws. If they play that way and they don't feel like they have to make the deep throws just to keep up with Oklahoma, and they really rely on, again, those trenches to wear Oklahoma out, by the fourth quarter, that time of possession for Texas will really start to favor them. And I think that's when they start to kind of run out the clock and win this game. So I've got, after a long-winded breakdown of how I feel this game's going to go, Devin, I have Texas winning 34-30 and staying on track to really go, not necessarily to the promised land, but make it to that Big 12 championship game.
That's only why I was laughing. You were, just drawing that out. Where's the score prediction?
Put me in, coach.
I was wanting to know what that was off the bat, but hey, you had great explanation for that. I'm gonna go reverse here and start with the score prediction. Dylan, I went Texas scoring 34 points in my predictions 2 weeks in a row. So that was a big factor in not doing it this week. I wanted to shake it up. It could be a lesser score, it could be a greater score, but my score I picked is because I wanted to shake things up a bit, Dylan. But the Red River games, historically, since 2017, past, what is that now, 5 or 6 matchups, have not been low scoring. All of the matchups, of course, we had a 4 overtime game with Sam Ehlinger at the helm. That, of course, will boost the scoring a little bit. But all the matchups have been well above 30 points, and 4 overtime games will get you above 40 points. So I'm going to go a little bit higher than I would normally, Dylan. I have Texas winning this one 38-27. Now, Oklahoma is a much improved team from last year. And not only are they a better team than they were last year, a season in which they went 6-7, but in this game specifically, as I mentioned, they have Davis Bevel, who, last year, yet again, no disrespect to Davis, but just not the quarterback they were wanting to roll out, Dylan. The Longhorns fans would be quite happy if they were rolling him out this year. But at backup quarterback for the Sooners this season, you got our boy Arnold out of Denton Guyer, just to name some more Denton guys. Yet again, a lot of great players on this Oklahoma team that Dylan and I have really admired from the high school level. They have the talent. They've been recruiting, quite well, as they always do. I mean, that is what is to be expected of an Oklahoma team. The key for Texas, of course, I talked about the secondary being an X factor. But on the flip side of that, Dylan, still on the same side of the ball, is like what you were saying for Oklahoma. If they can get Ewers scampering around a little bit and really testing that Chick-fil-A diet, Dylan, I gotta name drop a little bit. If they're testing that Chick-fil-A.
Over-under. I need an over-under. How many times do you think they're going to mention that?
I'm not going to stop mentioning it until people stop mentioning it at press conferences. So it might take a while. No. But if they make him run, make him lose that off-season weight, Dylan, that he's been losing, then
I thought you were going to say it again.
Oh, no. Then Oklahoma's going to be in a good spot. But on the flip side, what I was trying to get to was that's also going to be the key for Texas on defense. Of course, that secondary has not been, the greatest it could be at all times, although still overall fairly decent, Dylan. I believe they ranked 36th in passing defense, which kind of surprised me. I made sure to tell Dylan about that before the video because I was kind of shocked. But it's the occasional breaks that have been problems. But defensively for Longhorns, get Gabriel uncomfortable as well. Get him making some, throws that he typically wouldn't be making. Get him releasing off platform, getting drilled. Is really always the Red River equation. The team that just looks nastier, Dylan, typically is the team that's going to be winning games. Sarkisian told the offensive line for Texas prior to last weekend's game against Kansas that he was challenging them to move the line of scrimmage against the Jayhawks. They did that. Jonathan Brooks, of course, was a happy recipient of that little, extra motivation. I am sure that this is going to be the message this week. Sarkisian on Monday was talking about the team that's physical is going to win most of the games, Dylan. I'm telling you, Kelvin.
I'm so excited.
Kelvin Banks, I'm telling you, is going to be grinning from ear to ear. But, I mean, we talked about Oklahoma's physicality. We talked about Texas's physicality. Both teams hate each other. And what a better matchup we can get, Dylan. Oh, my gosh. I'm tingling over here. Both of us as fans are excited. Of course, we just hope for a good game. It's a ranked matchup. Not only ranked matchup, top 15, top 12 if you want to skew the numbers a little bit in our favor. Oh, boy. This is like Christmas come October. But more importantly than our predictions, what are your score predictions? Let us know down below. Don't forget to check out our work at HornSports.com, where you can find all things Texas, and it's always free. But more importantly than even that, make sure to have a great rest of your day. Find a good spot to watch the game on Saturday, and enjoy.